done by yourself, and yet no one ever mentions it.
It's the Alan Cox Show
on the Buzzard.
WMMS.
Yeah, brand new song from a Chicago band called The Ides of March. I'm your vehicle, baby. Love this song.
Great song.
Biggest hit they ever had. The guys in Ides of March, a few of them would go on to form a band called Survivor. They're in Chicago. You know what the Ides of March are?
I mean, I do.
What? It's March 15th. It commemorates tax day.
Right.
In Rome, right?
Ancient Rome.
Ancient Rome, right. I don't know what the Ides of March is. I'd have to look it up. I just know it's March 15th. It's not the assassination of Caesar, right?
That's just when it happened, I believe.
Oh, they killed him. So when they said, beware the Ides of March.
Yeah.
So that was premeditated. They knew they were going to kill him on March 15th?
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Et tu, Bruti. All right, well, there's your Ides of March. Although I did hear from Christine, who is out there in East Sparta. And God, I hope that turf war with West Sparta is cooling off. But Christine's out there in East Sparta, and she said, hey, thought you might like to know that today is also National Buzzard Day.
Hey.
Congratulations, of course, this radio station, the iconic Buzzard. And it wasn't, I'll be perfectly honest with you, I had never seen an actual buzzard. So in my mind, when she sent me this information, I assumed that the live buzzard would look like ours. But it's bald. I'm like, where's all this glorious, where are these luxurious locks that the buzzard is known for? You know, you see the iconic WMMS buzzard, and it's got a very specific look. But an actual buzzard is gross. It's not nearly as cool as the one we've got. Like, where's the vibe on these buzzards? I know they're birds of prey, but still, do something with yourself. There's nothing wrong with gussying yourself up a little bit. It's got this black collar of black leaves. What do they call them? Feathers. Collar of black feathers. Got this wrinkly red face. Can you imagine if they had made the WMMS buzzard an exact replica of what a buzzard actually looked like? This station would have never gotten off the ground.
Not as iconic.
We could have never made it to 50 years.
I'm wearing a
5 years ago.
Rubber Ducks hat today, Akron Rubber Ducks, and that's not what ducks look like. First of all, not that many teeth.
Yeah. Birds aren't known for their teeth. But anyway, thank you, Christine, for getting me hip to that. Whatever that means to people, you bird watchers or budding ornithologists, today's National Buzzard Day. I guess because this is when they typically will return. They come back from their migration, I guess. This is when, I can't imagine they're the only birds to do that this time of year. But the weather's been so wonky for the last couple of years, you'll hear birds of all kinds chirping in the wintertime. So I don't know if fewer and fewer birds are going south or what. But the holiday is specifically celebrated in the northeastern Ohio town of Hinckley, is what this says. So if you're out there in Hinckley, maybe you're a new Hinckley resident. This is how you ingratiate yourself with the other residents there of Hinckley. You go, hey, how about the buzzard? And they go, that Alan Cox Show sucks. They go, no, I'm talking about the bird here in Hinckley, Ohio. And I guess they commemorate it with pancake and sausages, which, as you know, favorite food of the buzzard.
They love it.
They love hot pancakes and sausages. What, are they going to live on carrion their whole lives? No. Sweet and savory. That's how the buzzard rolls. So anyway, thank you, Christine, out there in East Sparta, for that information. She listens out there. We have a lot of bureau chiefs. That's what I call people who listen to us on the iHeartRadio app from out of state. I appreciate your effort, because sometimes it is an effort on that app. Evan's one of our bureau chiefs in Minneapolis. We have a lot of people there in the Mackenzie's in Medford, Oregon. Drez is in Blacksburg, Virginia. And we have a handful of bureau chiefs in Hattiesburg, Mississippi. I've mentioned this town before. Kylie is down there. She's doing some graduate work in Hattiesburg, Mississippi. And about an hour north of Hattiesburg, Mississippi, you'll find a town called Taylorsburg, Mississippi. Not even a full hour north of Hattiesburg. And this is a case, a murder case there that is starting to get some national attention because of a young black man who was killed. A man named Rasheem Carter called his mom. This was back in October. So this tells you how much they wanted to kind of keep this under wraps until it started getting some more national attention. Rasheem Carter called his mom and said that there were 3 truckloads of white boys chasing him, and she told him to call the police. But then she didn't hear from him again, and so she reported him missing. And a month later, they found his body in the woods, dismembered, and the local sheriff said there was no reason to suspect foul play.
What?
And as you might suspect, the family put up a huge stink. How do you come to the conclusion, local Mississippi sheriff, that a dismembered young black man's murder is not foul play? So,
Wow.
Yep.
Wow. That's next level.
He was working 100 miles away from his home. This guy took a short-term contracting job. Here's the thing with this guy. He's a business owner in Fayette, Mississippi. He owned a restaurant, but because of the pandemic, it shut down. So he's trying to work another gig 100 miles away from his house to save money to reopen the restaurant. And so in the midst of this kind of commuting or whatever, he was driving to Taylorsville, which is about an hour north of Hattiesburg. And when they found him chopped up, his head and other body parts removed from his torso, the sheriff said, no reason to suspect foul.
See, this is the stuff, and I'm not using this as an excuse by any means, but because I know it can happen anywhere. But this is the type of stuff that makes me not want to move anywhere, a place where I don't know. I'm not familiar with the terrain. I'm not familiar with the people. I'm not familiar with the neighborhoods, the areas where you're not supposed to go to, and
Yeah, this guy was there his whole life, and this is what happened.
That's what I'm saying. At least, if at least something happens to me around here, people would know. If I'm pretty consistent when it comes to coming to work every day. So if I didn't and I was no call no show, it would be a cause for an alarm. This happened like 8 months or how many months ago? Back in
Happened
October.
in October. Bill, how long would you and I wait before we Sorry. How long would you and I wait before Poundcake stopped showing up to work, before we reported him as missing? Because day one, we'd go, oh, all right.
But no call?
I didn't know Mary wasn't going to be in last Monday. She didn't tell me.
Mm-hmm.
Day 2, he's not here. We go,
If there's no call, I'm getting suspicious. Like the first day I'm checking, I'm going to message Ryan and be like, hey, have you heard from Poundcake?
day 1 you would.
I would.
I would initially think he was trying to cut that whole I'm too reliable thing. Right. So he's like, oh, okay. He's trying to teach us a lesson. I don't know what that lesson is, but in his mind, he's trying to teach us a lesson.
Well, because
so
he's so reliable, I would text him if he didn't. I'm like, hey, where are you? Are you okay? Like, if he just no called, no show, I'd absolutely send that text message.
Well, also they say, and I don't know if this is real life or it's just the movies, that you have to be missing for 48 hours before you can file a report. I don't know if that's a real thing.
You're an adult.
Okay.
So Amber Alerts are for 18 and under. Under 18.
We couldn't do anything within 48 hours other than text his family, his friend. Couldn't do anything official. But then after 48 hours, we would file a missing persons report on him.
And that's why I would check with his. I guess I don't have your parent, like I don't have your mom's number, but I think I have Ryan as a friend on Facebook, so I'd probably message him and say like, hey, have you heard from Poundcake?
Yeah, see, and it's just stuff like this. Like I moved to another city, I got two things right against me. They might be okay with my black, but they might not be okay with my gay, or they might be okay with my gay, but they're not okay with my black. So I just go where I fit in, I suppose, but I don't know that until I get there. So I just be scared going through the wrong suburbs or
But you could also
country roads.
Okay, but what I'm saying is you could apply that to any place
I know.
other than you could apply that to anything outside like a 20-mile radius.
But I'm saying I know I feel like I got, and this is just in my head, but this is how I feel. I feel more comfortable in Ohio because I got Ohio on lock. There's few places in Ohio that I don't have friends. So
You have friends in every corner of the state. You could go to Southwest Ohio and you go, I got this figured out.
Yeah, within
Because most of Ohio is like Mississippi.
Well, I'm just saying within like an hour. If my car broke down, Southern Ohio, I have friends in Kentucky, and I don't have any friends in West Virginia, but I got friends in like PA that within like an hour, 2 hours they could come and get me. Now, granted, I have AAA, so that's not an issue. I'm just saying, I have friends that if times get tough, can I sleep on your couch until my car gets fixed?
So the point you're trying to make is what?
The point I'm trying to make is I try to establish relationships with people, so if something like this were to happen, it would be a cause for alarm. Like this guy was just 100 miles away.
There'd be a lot of people looking out for you, is what you're saying.
I have people looking out for me, which is good, and I am marginalized. I'm a minority, so I stick out. If I'm in Southern Ohio, you said it's just like Mississippi. I stick out.
Well, I mean, not just like, I'm being a little cheeky there, but I mean, and this is the problem with a place like Mississippi. Mississippi is dead last in a lot of things. Dead last in a lot of things. When they do like top 50 states in this and this and this, Mississippi's dead last. Literacy, quality of public hospitals, infant mortality rate dead last. Life expectancy in the United States, dead last. Water quality, air quality, dead last. So are they trying to improve people's lives down there? No.
Where do they rank in states with the most S's?
First. No, the governor down there just signed a bill to make it harder to buy electric vehicles because that's the priority down in a place like Mississippi. So that's why it's frustrating for people who are down there and trying to live their lives. And anyway, this case, which I'm sure they wanted to keep under wraps for a while, has kind of blown up because no one can figure out how they arrived at no foul play when we just found your son's torso. That's a pretty high confront. Alan, do you have anything new from Jenna? Yeah, I do. The after hours line has been kind of on and off recently. Been kind of been on the fritz. But boy, every time it comes back online, it's nothing but Jenna.
Jenna's ready to roll.
She's ready to roll, boy.
It's time for Sweet Nothings with Jenna from Poland.
I think my life would have been less confusing if I was queer.
This has been Sweet Nothings with Jenna from Poland.
Well, I mean, I can't speak to that, but
My life is
Poundcake, she thinks her life would have been a lot better if she were queer.
Less confusing. She didn't
just
say
said
better. She
less-
just said less confusing.
Oh, less
I was gonna say,
confusing. Okay. well.
less confusing. I literally just went on a rant about how I have to have white people vouch for me if I'm in a foreign land. So it's pretty confusing. I don't know if it'd be less complicated if you were queer.
Well, Jenna seems to think so. She's really focused on that. That's not the first time she's mentioned being queer in her voicemails.
They're not mutually exclusive. You can be blind and queer. There's plenty of blind.
I didn't say anything about her being blind. I said it's not the first time that she's mentioned how, well, she likes the word queer. I should say
does,
that.
yes.
She's used that word on a number of occasions and also made reference to what seems like a revolving door of boyfriends. I don't know how that all works out. She is blind. Legally blind, I guess. But listen, that's life in a rock band. She got a band out there in Poland, the Feral Cats. And it's her and a bunch of other people. And she's one of their singers. So maybe that's what it is. Maybe it's all very confusing for her because being in a rock and roll band, there's a lot of mixed messages there. But I don't know. So, yeah, I was met by, that's how I know That's how I know, quite literally, when the Alan Cox Show After Hours line is working and when it's not working. When I go to it and there are no messages, I shoot a message up the chain. I go, hey, guys, this isn't working. And then somebody looks into it because I know anytime it is, there's 20 messages from Jenna. That's literally my metric for how I know. Because it's not like I get an alert that says, hey, the thing's not working. But no, I would be the only one that would know when I check the messages.
It's
and
funny.
if there aren't any, that's how I know.
It's funny that she's your default.
Well, God bless her.
Mm-hmm.
She's out there doing the stuff. But, life being that's why it's so, you talk about frustrating, what's going on there in Tennessee. And we kind of have mentioned this briefly, but what's going on there in Tennessee is, it's another one of these states that's trying to make transgender people just go away. And they're so committed to it that they're giving up $1 billion in funding for other things just so they can pass this anti-trans bill. Legislature there in Tennessee. We have a lot of bureau chiefs in Tennessee, too. And it's not like Tennessee can't use the money, right? It's not like they don't need it. Everybody thinks Tennessee is like on fire because of Nashville. No, Central Tennessee is doing okay because of Nashville. But the rest of the state could really use $1 billion to fund some other things. But they're so committed to entirely removing transgender rights through a bill in their legislature that they would rather turn down $1 billion in funding for other things to get these kinds of bills passed. And listen, you may not agree with the trans thing at all. You might not know any trans people, but it is an issue of human rights. And something like this is a full-throated attempt to remove an entire group of people from legal protection in society, right? Removing them from social discourse, removing them from having political agency, for lack of a better word, removing them from public life. And you might not care. People go, well, it's a sliver of the population. It doesn't affect me. And long term, you might be right. But, people who want to restrict how a certain group of people live will eventually find a way to restrict how you live. So it is very true that from day to day, you might go, well, that doesn't really affect me. I think that's how a lot of people approach these kinds of stories in state after state, whether it's drag brunch or whether it's right. And they take advantage of people not caring about it. Because it's amazing how quickly people will get things done when they really, really want to. So whether it's Tennessee or Ohio or any of this state that's trying to do this nonsense, imagine if they put that energy toward improving people's lives. Because making things difficult for another group of people will not improve your life. That's the scam they're selling you. But it won't improve your life if other people are cut out of, the public square, as it were. So they're looking down the barrel of $1 billion in funding. They're like, no, we don't want that. We'd rather pass this anti-trans bill. So in places like Tennessee, they'll vote down tens of millions of dollars to help homeless vets. But they'll find a way to you want to give them a way to put gay people in jail? Or, we were talking about South Carolina. If you want to suggest that women who want to control their own bodies should be executed, man, they move with the quickness for that kind of stuff. They can't get enough. Because very utilitarian. They're thought, hey, listen, man, once you've served your purpose, they have no more use for you. Once they force that woman to have the baby, they're both on their own. Once the veterans are done serving, they have no more use for you. So there are all kinds of states around the country that are doing this kind of nonsense because they figure the rubes are paying attention to the culture war stuff. But in the meantime, you have a lot of other people's lives who could be improved, but that doesn't seem to move the needle for them. So whatever's going on there in Tennessee, people always go, follow the money, follow the money. That's usually true, but when that starts changing, that's a whole other thing. When they go, well, here's $1 billion in state funding for X, Y, and Z, but you can't pass that trans bill. They go, no, we'd rather do that. That's the important part in Tennessee. I mean, I know Nashville's the golden goose. In Memphis, You know, they do all right. But I don't know. It's very, very strange to me. It's very, very weird. Because once you can't count on people following the money anymore, I don't know where you go from there. I don't know. It's weird. So for Jenna to go, I think my life would be less confusing if I was queer. She might be right. I don't know. But I mean, look at our own Cody Poundcake Brown. Put him on camera. Look into the camera, Poundcake. Does that look like someone who's not confused? He's a little slip of a lad, isn't he? Getting thinner by the day. How are you getting so thin?
Orange Theory Fitness.